The hospital room was supposed to be empty. Lucas Hale pushed through the door, already late, already distracted, already drowning in the carefully controlled chaos that defined his life as a single father. But the room wasn't empty. A woman lay motionless in the bed, pale, alone, surrounded by machines but no flowers, no cards, no proof that anyone in the world knew she existed. He should have left immediately, should have apologized and backed away. Instead, he stood frozen, staring at the loneliest sight he'd ever seen. And in that moment, without knowing it, Lucas Hale made the decision that would unravel everything. Before we begin, I invite you to join me on this journey. Please hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Lucas Hale had mastered the art of invisible living. At 32, he moved through the world like a ghost, present but unnoticed, functional but forgettable. He preferred it that way. Invisibility meant safety. It meant control. It meant never again experiencing the kind of pain that had nearly destroyed him 3 years ago. His daughter Mia was the only exception to his carefully constructed isolation. She was 7 now, with her mother's dark curls and a smile that could crack open his chest every single time. For Mia, Lucas would do anything. Be anything. Which was why he worked 2 jobs, lived in a modest apartment that was always clean but never quite warm, and structured every single day around her needs. Tuesday afternoons belonged to Mia's asthma checkups at Riverside Medical Center. Lucas had the routine down to a science. Leave the warehouse at 2:30, pick her up from school at 2:50, arrive at the hospital by 3:15. Dr. Patterson's office. 3rd floor. East wing. Except today, everything ran 15 minutes behind. The school had held Mia late for some assembly he'd forgotten about. Traffic on Highland was backed up from an accident he couldn't see but could feel in every tense second that ticked past. By the time Lucas pulled into the hospital parking garage, his jaw ached from clenching, and Mia was chattering nervously in the back seat. "Are we late, Daddy?" "We're fine, baby." Lucas forced his voice into something calm as he helped her out of the car. "Dr. Patterson always runs late anyway." It was a lie, but a small one. The kind of lie that kept a 7-year-old from absorbing her father's constant low-level anxiety. They hurried through the main entrance, Lucas's hand firmly gripping Mia's as they navigated the familiar maze of sterile hallways. 3rd floor. East wing. Room 3. His phone buzzed. Work. Lucas pulled it out, reading the message as they walked. "Torres called in sick. Can you cover tonight's shift?" His thumb hovered over the screen. He needed the money. He always needed the money. But tonight was supposed to be movie night with Mia, and he'd already canceled twice this month. "Daddy, you're walking too fast." Lucas slowed, pocketing his phone. "Sorry, sweetheart." He was so distracted by the message, by the time, by the perpetual weight of trying to be enough for his daughter, that he didn't notice when he pushed through the wrong door. The room was dim, quiet. A single figure lay in the hospital bed, connected to an IV drip and a heart monitor that beeped with mechanical indifference. The blinds were drawn, no television played, no visitors sat in the uncomfortable chairs. Lucas froze in the doorway, his hand still on Mia's shoulder. The woman in the bed wasn't moving. For a terrible second, he thought she might be dead, until he saw the slow rise and fall of her chest beneath the thin blanket. She was pale. Not sick pale, but abandoned pale. The kind of colorlessness that came from weeks without sunlight, without fresh air, without anyone who cared enough to open the damn blinds. "Daddy," Mia whispered. "This isn't Dr. Patterson's room." "I know, baby. Wrong door." But Lucas didn't move. He couldn't stop staring at the woman's face. She looked to be in her late 30s, maybe early 40s. Even unconscious, or sleeping, he couldn't tell, there was something striking about her features. Strong bone structure. Dark hair that had been cut short, probably out of medical necessity. Her hands lay still on top of the blanket, elegant even in their limpness. But what struck Lucas most was the emptiness surrounding her. No flowers, no balloons, no cards propped on the windowsill. No evidence that anyone in the entire world knew she was here. He'd been in enough hospital rooms to know what abandonment looked like. "Daddy, we need to go." "Yeah." Lucas stepped back, pulling the door closed. "Yeah, you're right." Dr. Patterson's office was actually room 318, not 314. Lucas realized his mistake immediately when he saw the familiar nameplate. He apologized to the receptionist for being late, filled out the standard forms while Mia played on her tablet, and tried to forget about the woman in room 314. He couldn't. During Mia's examination, while Dr. Patterson listened to her lungs and asked about her inhaler usage, Lucas's mind kept drifting back to that dim room, to that solitary figure, to the absence of any sign that she mattered to someone. "Mr. Hale?" Lucas snapped back to attention. "Sorry, what?" "Doctor." Patterson smiled patiently. She was used to distracted parents. "I said Mia's doing great. Her lung function has improved since last month. Whatever you're doing, keep it up." "That's wonderful." Lucas squeezed Mia's hand. "You hear that, sweetheart? You're doing amazing." Mia beamed. They left the hospital 20 minutes later, Lucas's mind still circling back to room 314. He told himself it was none of his business. People ended up alone in hospitals for all kinds of reasons. Maybe she didn't have family. Maybe her family lived far away. Maybe she'd specifically requested no visitors. Maybe she'd done something to deserve being forgotten. That last thought made him feel sick. Lucas picked up Chinese takeout on the way home, Mia's favorite sweet and sour chicken with extra fortune cookies, and tried to focus on being present. Movie night was sacred. No work emails, no distractions. Just him and his daughter, curled up on their worn couch, watching whatever animated adventure she'd chosen this week. But after Mia fell asleep, her small body warm and trusting against his side, Lucas found himself staring at his phone. He opened the browser, typed Riverside Medical Center visiting hours, stared at the results. This was insane. He didn't know that woman, didn't owe her anything. He had enough to deal with: 2 jobs, a daughter to raise alone, bills that never stopped coming, and a carefully maintained emotional distance from anything that might hurt him again. Getting involved was the opposite of invisible living. Lucas closed the browser, carried Mia to her bed, tucked her in with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd done this alone 1,000 times, kissed her forehead, and whispered that he loved her. Then he went to his own room, lay down in the dark, and tried not to think about room 314. He failed. Wednesday morning arrived with its usual chaos. Lucas got Mia ready for school, packed her lunch, signed a permission slip he'd forgotten about, and dropped her off with 3 minutes to spare. Then he drove to the warehouse for his first shift. The work was mindless: loading trucks, checking inventory, moving boxes from point A to point B. Lucas had been doing it for 2 years, ever since the grief had finally loosened its grip enough for him to function again. It wasn't a career. It wasn't fulfilling. But it was steady, and steady was all he could handle. During his lunch break, sitting alone in his car with a sandwich he barely tasted, Lucas made a decision. He drove to a grocery store, walked to the floral section, stared at the pre-made bouquets like they might explain what the hell he was doing. A store employee approached, an older woman with kind eyes. "Looking for something special?" I don't know." Lucas felt like an idiot. "What do you give someone who's sick? In the hospital?" "Depends on the person." "Are they family?" "No, I don't." He trailed off. "I don't even know her name." The woman's expression shifted into something understanding. "Sometimes the simplest choice is best. Daisies are cheerful, not too formal. They say, 'Someone's thinking of you.'" Lucas bought the daisies. He drove back to Riverside Medical Center feeling ridiculous. This was a terrible idea. What was he going to do? Just walk into a stranger's room and leave flowers? What if she woke up? What if someone saw him? What if... He was already in the elevator, pressing the button for the 3rd floor. The hallway was quieter than yesterday. Lucas walked past the nurse's station, head down, moving with the purposeful stride of someone who belonged. Nobody stopped him. Nobody even looked up. Room 314. Lucas paused outside, his heart hammering. This was his last chance to turn around, to go back to his carefully controlled life, to stay invisible. He pushed the door open. The woman was exactly as he'd left her. Same position, same pallor, same terrible, crushing loneliness radiating from every corner of the room. Lucas moved quickly. He set the daisies on the small table beside her bed, next to a cup of water that looked like it had been sitting there for hours. The flowers looked almost absurdly cheerful against the sterile white surfaces. He should leave now. Mission accomplished. Anonymous kindness delivered. But Lucas found himself moving to the window instead. He opened the blinds, letting afternoon sunlight stream into the room. The woman's face caught the light, and for the first time Lucas noticed details he'd missed before. A small scar above her left eyebrow, laugh lines around her eyes, a tension in her jaw even in sleep. "I don't know if you can hear me," Lucas said quietly, "but I hope you're okay. I hope someone comes to visit you soon. I hope you're not as alone as you look." The heart monitor continued its steady beep. Lucas left before anyone could find him there. Thursday, he brought a book. He didn't plan it, didn't consciously decide to return. But during his morning shift at the warehouse, Lucas found himself thinking about that dim room, those closed blinds, that woman lying there with nothing. No stimulation, no comfort, no sign that the world remembered her existence. So during his lunch break, he stopped at a used bookstore, picked out a collection of short stories. Nothing too heavy, nothing that required following a complex plot, just something in case she woke up and needed a distraction. He left it on her bedside table, next to the daisies. The flowers had wilted slightly, but still brought color to the oppressive white room. This time, Lucas noticed a chart at the foot of her bed. He didn't touch it. That felt like crossing a line, but he could see a name printed on the label. Elena Voss. He whispered it as he left. Elena. It felt important, knowing her name, made her real instead of just a symbol of loneliness he could project onto. Friday, Lucas brought a small potted plant, something that would last longer than cut flowers. Saturday, he stopped by with a new book, a mystery novel this time. Sunday, he brought nothing but sat in the chair beside her bed for 15 minutes, watching her breathe and wondering what the hell he was doing. Each visit, he opened the blinds. Each visit, he said a few quiet words. About the weather, about Mia, about nothing important. Each visit, he left before anyone could question his presence. Elena never woke while he was there, but Lucas noticed small changes. The books had been moved slightly, the plant had been watered, someone, a nurse probably, was noticing his gifts. He wondered if Elena was noticing too. Week 2 began with Lucas acknowledging that this had become a routine. Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, before picking up Mia. Saturday mornings, before grocery shopping. Sunday evenings, after putting his daughter to bed. He was visiting a stranger in a hospital room. A stranger he'd never spoken to. A stranger who might never even know he existed. It should have felt crazy. Instead, it felt necessary. Lucas had spent 3 years avoiding anything that might make him feel again. Avoiding connection, avoiding risk, avoiding the possibility of loss. He'd convinced himself that invisible living was the same as safe living. But sitting in Elena Voss's hospital room, leaving small tokens of care for someone who couldn't thank him, Lucas felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Purpose. Not the grinding obligation of providing for Mia, which he'd do regardless. Not the hollow satisfaction of completing another shift, another day, another week of survival. Real purpose. The kind that came from choosing to care about something that didn't directly benefit him. He brought her a small radio on week 2, Wednesday. Tuned it to a classical station and left the volume low. Friday, he brought a framed photograph he'd found at a thrift store. A landscape, mountains at sunset, something beautiful to look at if she woke. The nurse caught him leaving on Saturday. "Excuse me." She was young, probably early 20s, with tired eyes and a kind smile. "Are you family?" Lucas froze. "No, I was just... You're the one leaving the gifts." It wasn't a question. Lucas's mind raced through possible excuses and came up empty. The nurse's smile softened. "It's okay. I think it's sweet. Ms. Voss doesn't get many visitors." "Any visitors?" Lucas asked before he could stop himself. "No." The nurse glanced back at room 314. "None. It's been almost 3 weeks since she was admitted. You're the first person who's come to see her." "And 3 weeks." Lucas felt something twist in his chest. "I shouldn't tell you this," the nurse continued, lowering her voice. "But she's been improving. The doctors think she'll wake up soon, maybe in the next few days." Lucas nodded, not trusting his voice. "I'm sure she'll want to thank you for all of this." "No." The word came out too sharp. Lucas softened his tone. "I'd rather... Can you not tell her? About me?" The nurse looked confused. Why not? Because Lucas struggled to articulate something he barely understood himself. Because she doesn't need the complication. She's going through something hard. She doesn't need to feel obligated to some stranger. It was partially true. But the deeper truth, the one Lucas couldn't say out loud, was that he was terrified of making this real. As long as he remained anonymous, he was safe. As long as Elena Voss didn't know his name, didn't see his face, couldn't ask questions or create expectations, he could keep helping without risking anything. The nurse studied him for a long moment. Okay, she finally said. I won't tell her, but if she asks about the flowers and books and everything else, I'm not going to lie. That's fair. Lucas left before she could reconsider. Monday evening, after putting Mia to bed, Lucas returned to room 314 one more time. He'd brought a small notebook this time, the kind with blank pages. He set it on the bedside table with a pen tucked into the spiral binding. Then he did something he hadn't planned. He wrote a note on the first page. I hope you're feeling better. I hope you have everything you need. I hope you know that someone is thinking about you. He didn't sign it. Tuesday afternoon, Lucas arrived for his usual visit and found Elena's bed empty. His heart stopped. For one terrible second, he thought, She's been moved to a recovery room, a voice said behind him. Lucas spun. The same nurse from before stood in the doorway, her expression gentle. She woke up yesterday. Doctors say she's doing great, should be able to go home in a few days. Relief flooded through him, so intense it was almost painful. That's good. She found your notebook. Lucas's breath caught. She's been writing in it, questions mostly, about who's been visiting, who brought all the gifts. The nurse paused. She seems pretty determined to find out. I should go. Room 427, the nurse said. 4th floor, if you change your mind about the whole anonymous thing. Lucas didn't go to room 427. Instead, he went home, picked up Mia from after-school care, made dinner, helped with homework, and tried to convince himself that this was where it ended. Elena Voss was awake. She was recovering. His job, if it could even be called that, was done. Except he couldn't stop thinking about her questions in that notebook, about her determination to find him, about the fact that after 3 weeks in a hospital, she'd woken up to discover that the only person who'd cared enough to visit was a complete stranger. Wednesday evening, after Mia was asleep, Lucas drove back to Riverside Medical Center. He took the elevator to the 4th floor, walked down the hallway to room 427. Stood outside the door for 5 full minutes, his hand raised to knock, his entire body screaming at him to run. He was about to do it, about to turn around and leave, when a voice called out from inside the room. I can hear you breathing out there. Either come in or leave, but stop lurking in my doorway. Lucas's hand was on the door handle before his brain caught up. He pushed it open. Elena Voss was sitting up in bed, no longer pale but still thin, her short dark hair messy from weeks of hospital living. She wore a simple hospital gown and an expression of fierce intelligence that hit Lucas like a physical force. Their eyes met. So, Elena said, her voice rough from disuse but steady. You're my mystery visitor. Lucas opened his mouth, closed it, had no idea what to say. Elena's gaze swept over him, taking in his warehouse work clothes, his worn boots, the exhaustion that probably showed in every line of his face. When she looked back at his eyes, something in her expression softened. Thank you, she said quietly, for the flowers and the books and the radio and the plant and... She gestured at the notebook on her bedside table. And for caring when nobody else did. I didn't... Lucas's voice came out hoarse. I didn't do it for gratitude. Why did you do it? It was a simple question. It deserved a simple answer, but Lucas didn't have one. I don't know, he admitted. I just saw you there, alone. And I thought someone should what? Should give a damn. Silence fell between them. Not uncomfortable exactly, but weighted with something Lucas couldn't name. Elena's lips curved into the smallest smile. What's your name? Lucas. Lucas Hale. Well, Lucas Hale. She extended her hand, the IV line attached to it swaying slightly. I'm Elena Voss, and apparently I owe you my sanity. Lucas crossed the room and took her hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong. "You don't owe me anything," he said. "I disagree." Elena didn't let go of his hand. "But we can argue about it later. Right now, I have questions. Starting with, why did you want to stay anonymous?" Lucas pulled his hand back, suddenly aware of how close he was standing to her bed. "Because I'm not... This isn't... Not what? I'm not looking for anything. I don't want... I have a daughter, a job, a life that's already complicated enough. I just wanted to help, that's all." Elena studied him with those sharp, intelligent eyes. "Okay. Okay? Okay, I believe you." She leaned back against her pillows, some of the tension leaving her shoulders. "But Lucas Hale, you should know something." "What?" "I don't let debts go unpaid, and right now I owe you more than I can calculate. So whether you're looking for anything or not..." Elena's smile turned into something warmer, more genuine. "You're stuck with me." Lucas should have argued, should have explained that he couldn't afford to get stuck with anyone, that his life had no room for complications, that this was exactly the kind of entanglement he'd been avoiding for 3 years. Instead, he found himself smiling back. "I need to get home," he said. "My daughter." "How old?" 7. "Her name's Mia." "You're raising her alone." It wasn't a question. "Yeah." Elena nodded slowly, something shifting in her expression. "That's why you understood." "Understood what?" "What it feels like to be alone in a room full of people who don't see you." Lucas had no answer to that. The accuracy of it hit too close. "Come back," Elena said as he moved toward the door. "Tomorrow. Bring your daughter if you want. I'd like to thank you properly. And..." She paused, vulnerability flickering across her face for just a moment. "And I'd like to not be alone." Lucas should have said no, should have made an excuse, should have protected himself and Mia from whatever this was becoming. "Okay," he heard himself say. "Tomorrow." He left before he could change his mind. In the hallway, walking back toward the elevator, Lucas felt the carefully constructed walls around his life beginning to crack. He'd spent 3 years building them, 3 years learning to be invisible, to stay safe, to never risk the kind of pain that came from caring too much. One wrong door had started to tear it all down, and the terrifying thing was, Lucas wasn't entirely sure he wanted to stop it. Lucas didn't sleep that night. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, his mind replaying every second of that conversation. Elena's voice, rough but steady, her eyes, sharp and assessing, but somehow warm. The way she'd said, "You're stuck with me," like it was both a threat and a promise. He'd built a life around avoiding exactly this kind of connection. And in less than 10 minutes, Elena Voss had dismantled 3 years of careful emotional architecture. The smart thing would be to not go back. To let this end here. A strange, brief intersection of 2 lives that had no business colliding. She was awake now, recovering. She didn't need him anymore. But Lucas had never been particularly good at doing the smart thing when it came to people who needed someone to give a damn. At 6 in the morning, he gave up on sleep and made coffee. By 7, he'd gotten Mia ready for school, packed her lunch, and tried to figure out how to explain where they were going after pickup. "We're visiting someone at the hospital today," he said as he drove her to school. Mia looked up from her tablet. "Is someone sick?" She was. "But she's getting better now." "Do I know her?" "No, baby. She's a friend." The word felt strange in his mouth. He wasn't sure it was accurate. What did you call someone you'd watched over in silence for weeks but had only spoken to once? Mia accepted this without further questions, the way 7-year-olds did when they trusted their parent completely. Lucas felt the weight of that trust as he dropped her off, kissed her goodbye, and promised to pick her up at 3. His morning shift at the warehouse dragged. Every hour felt like 3. Lucas caught himself checking his phone repeatedly, though he wasn't sure what he was waiting for. Elena didn't have his number. She had no way to contact him except through the hospital, and he couldn't imagine her doing that. But when his lunch break finally arrived, Lucas found himself dialing Riverside Medical Center anyway. "4th floor, please, room 427. The phone rang 3 times before Elena answered. "Hello?" Lucas nearly hung up. "It's Lucas. Lucas Hale." "I know." There was amusement in her voice. "I've been waiting for you to call." "How did you..." Because you seem like the type to second guess yourself. I figured you'd either call to cancel or show up 2 hours early, overthinking everything. She wasn't wrong. Lucas felt himself smile despite the anxiety churning in his stomach. I'm bringing my daughter, like you said. Is that still okay? More than okay. What time? Around 3:30? I'll be here. I'm not exactly going anywhere. Elena paused. Lucas? Yeah? Thank you for calling. I wasn't sure you would come back. The vulnerability in her voice caught him off guard. I said I would. People say a lot of things. Lucas understood that weariness. He'd felt it himself in the year after his wife died, when well-meaning friends promised to check in and then disappeared into their own lives. I'll be there, he said. 3:30. Okay. Elena's voice softened. I'll see you then. Lucas hung up and sat in his car for a long moment, his coffee going cold in the cup holder. He was making a mistake. He could feel it. Every instinct he'd developed over the last 3 years screamed that he was opening a door that should stay closed. But he'd already opened it, and some part of him, buried deep beneath all the protective layers, wanted to see what was on the other side. The afternoon crawled by. Lucas went through the motions of his shift, loading boxes, checking manifests, avoiding conversation with coworkers who'd long since learned he preferred to work alone. At 2:30, he clocked out and drove to Mia's school. She burst out of the building with her usual energy, backpack bouncing, talking before she even reached the car. Jenny brought cupcakes for her birthday, and Mrs. Martinez let us have extra recess, and I finished my math worksheet first, and Mia stopped, noticing Lucas's expression. Daddy? Are you okay? I'm fine, sweetheart, just tired. You're always tired. It was true. Lucas helped her into the car and pulled out of the parking lot. Remember I said we're visiting someone at the hospital? The friend who was sick? Yeah, her name is Elena. She's very nice, but she's been alone for a while, so I want you to be gentle with her, okay? Mia nodded seriously. Like when Grandma was sick? Lucas's hands tightened on the steering wheel. His mother-in-law had passed 2 years ago, another loss in a series of losses that had taught him to keep his world small. Kind of like that, yeah. They arrived at Riverside Medical Center at 3:25. Lucas parked, then spent 5 minutes in the car trying to calm his racing heart, while Mia played a game on her tablet, oblivious to her father's internal crisis. Ready? He finally asked. Mia looked up. You seem nervous. I'm not nervous. You do the thing with your hands when you're nervous. She demonstrated, rubbing her palms together. You're doing it right now. Lucas stopped immediately. Too smart for your own good, you know that? Mia grinned and unbuckled her seatbelt. They rode the elevator to the 4th floor in silence. Lucas held Mia's hand, drawing comfort from her small, warm grip. Whatever happened next, he had her. That was enough. That had to be enough. Room 427 was at the end of the hall. Lucas knocked softly. Come in, Elena called. Lucas pushed the door open. Elena was sitting up in bed, but the change from yesterday was remarkable. Someone, probably a nurse, had helped her wash her hair, and she'd changed into her own clothes. A simple gray sweater that made her look less like a patient and more like a person. The IV was gone. Color had returned to her cheeks. She looked alive in a way she hadn't before. And when her eyes met Lucas's, something electric passed between them. Then Elena's gaze dropped to Mia, and her entire expression transformed into something softer. You must be Mia. Mia pressed closer to Lucas's side, suddenly shy. Hi. I'm Elena. Your dad told me about you. He told me about you too. He said you were sick. I was, but I'm much better now, thanks to your father. Mia looked up at Lucas, confused. What did Daddy do? Elena smiled. He made sure I wasn't alone. That's a very important thing to do for someone. Lucas cleared his throat, uncomfortable with the praise. Can we come in? Please. They entered the room. Lucas guided Mia to the chair beside Elena's bed, while he remained standing, unsure of where to put himself. Elena studied Mia with genuine interest. How old are you? 7, almost 7.5. That's a good age. What's your favorite subject in school? Art. I like drawing. Me too, or I did when I was your age. Elena's expression turned nostalgic. I used to draw all the time. Drove my parents crazy because I'd draw on everything. Walls, furniture, my homework. Mia giggled. I'm not allowed to draw on the walls. Probably a wise rule. Lucas watched them talk, something tight in his chest, loosening incrementally. Mia was rarely this comfortable with strangers. She'd inherited her father's wariness, his tendency to observe before engaging. But with Elena, she was opening up. Maybe it was Elena's directness. She spoke to Mia like an equal, not with the condescending sweetness adults often used with children. Or maybe it was something else. Some recognition of shared loneliness, even if Mia was too young to name it. Do you draw, Mrs. Elena? Mia asked. Not anymore. I got too busy with work. Elena glanced at Lucas, something rueful in her expression. I forgot about a lot of things I used to love. That's sad. It is, isn't it? Elena agreed quietly. An awkward silence fell. Lucas scrambled for something to say, but Mia filled the gap with her characteristic directness. Daddy says you don't have any family. Mia, Lucas started, mortified, but Elena held up a hand. It's okay. She's right. She looked at Mia steadily. I have family, but we don't talk anymore. Sometimes that happens with people. They grow apart. Why? Because I made mistakes. I chose work over them, over and over, until one day they stopped waiting for me to choose differently. Mia considered this with the seriousness only children could bring to complex emotional truths. That's really sad. Yeah, Elena said softly. It really is. Lucas could see the pain beneath her composed exterior. Whatever had landed Elena Voss in that hospital room, alone and forgotten, it wasn't just circumstance. It was consequence. But you have Daddy now, Mia announced with the confidence of someone who'd solved a problem. He's really good at not leaving people alone, even when he's tired. Elena's eyes found Lucas's across the room. Is he? Lucas felt heat rise in his face. Mia, maybe we should... And I can visit too, Mia continued, warming to her theme. I'm good at visiting. I visited Grandma all the time before she died. The room went very quiet. Elena's expression shifted into something painfully gentle. I'm sorry you lost your grandmother. Mia shrugged with the resilience of a child who'd processed grief in ways adults never could. It's okay. Daddy says she's in a better place, but I miss her sometimes. I'm sure you do. Do you miss your family? Lucas wanted to intervene, to redirect the conversation away from this raw territory, but Elena answered before he could. Every day, she said honestly. Even though it's my fault they're gone, I miss them every single day. Mia slid off her chair and approached the bed. Before Lucas could stop her, she reached out and took Elena's hand. You shouldn't be alone, Mia said seriously. Nobody should be alone. Elena's composure cracked. Her eyes filled with tears, she blinked back rapidly. Thank you, sweetheart. Lucas felt his own throat tighten. He'd spent 3 years teaching Mia to be careful, to be guarded, to protect herself from a world that could take away everyone you loved. But somehow, despite his best efforts, she'd remained open, compassionate, brave in ways he'd forgotten how to be. The visit lasted an hour. They talked about small things, Mia's school, Elena's recovery, the books Lucas had left. Elena asked Mia to draw her something, and Mia immediately pulled out the sketchbook she carried everywhere, drawing with intense concentration while the adults talked quietly. She's wonderful, Elena said, watching Mia work. You've done an incredible job with her. I'm just trying not to screw her up. You're doing more than that. Elena's gaze was steady. She's kind, empathetic, open. That doesn't happen by accident. Lucas didn't know what to say to that. Compliments about his parenting always felt like traps, acknowledgments of effort that could be revoked the moment he inevitably failed. Can I ask you something? Elena said quietly. Sure. Why did you really come back? After staying anonymous for so long, why reveal yourself now? Lucas watched Mia draw, her tongue poking out slightly in concentration. Because you asked me to, and because I'm tired of hiding. Hiding from what? From anything that might hurt. Elena nodded slowly. I understand that. I've been hiding too, just in a different way. From what? From the person I used to be, before I let work become everything. She looked down at her hands. I built an empire. Made more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. Proved everyone wrong who said I couldn't. And somewhere along the way, I forgot why any of it mattered. What happened? Lucas asked gently. How did you end up here? Elena was quiet for a long moment. I collapsed in my office 3 weeks ago. No warning. One minute I was in a meeting, the next I was waking up here. She gestured at the hospital room. Exhaustion, the doctor said. Severe stress. My body literally shut down because I'd pushed it too far for too long. And nobody came to see you. I'd made sure nobody would, kept everyone at arm's length. My executive team knows better than to visit. I've always been clear about maintaining boundaries. My family stopped trying to reach me years ago. Friends? She laughed bitterly. I don't have friends. I have business associates and employees and people who want things from me. But friends? People who actually care? I eliminated those relationships years ago. Lucas felt a surge of recognition. Different circumstances, same isolation. That's why your visits mattered so much, Elena continued. You had no reason to care, no agenda, no expectation of return. You just showed up, day after day, with flowers and books and kindness. Her voice dropped. Do you have any idea how long it's been since someone did something for me without wanting something back? I did want something back, Lucas admitted. Elena looked surprised. What? To feel like I mattered, like what I did made a difference. He struggled to articulate the truth he'd only just begun to understand. After my wife died, I became invisible, on purpose. It was safer that way, but invisibility is just another word for irrelevant. Coming here, leaving those gifts, it made me feel relevant again. You are relevant, Elena said fiercely. You have a daughter who adores you, a life you've built from scratch. That matters. So do you. Elena's breath caught. I'm not sure that's true anymore. It is. Lucas moved closer to the bed. You made mistakes. So what? You're still here, still breathing, still capable of changing the story. I'm done, Mia announced suddenly, holding up her sketchbook. The drawing was of 3 figures holding hands. A man, a woman, and a small girl between them. Above their heads, Mia had drawn a bright yellow sun. Elena took the sketchbook with trembling hands. This is beautiful, Mia. Thank you. It's you and Daddy and me. So you're not alone anymore. Lucas watched Elena stare at that drawing, watched her blink back tears, watched her carefully reconstruct the composure that had slipped. I love it, Elena whispered. Can I keep it? Yes, I made it for you. Then I'll treasure it. Elena looked at Lucas, and in her eyes, he saw gratitude and fear and something else he couldn't quite name. Both of you, you've given me more in one afternoon than I've had in years. A nurse appeared in the doorway. Ms. Voss, sorry to interrupt, but Dr. Patterson needs to run some final tests. Of course. Elena handed the sketchbook back to Mia reluctantly. I guess that's my cue. Lucas stood, relief and disappointment warring in his chest. We should go anyway. It's almost dinner time. They moved toward the door, but Elena called out. Lucas? He turned. Will you come back, both of you? Lucas looked at Mia, who nodded enthusiastically, then back at Elena. Yeah, he said. We'll come back. Elena's smile was radiant. Good. In the elevator, Mia chattered about Elena, how nice she was, how sad her story was, how she needed friends. Can we bring her something tomorrow? Mia asked. Like you did before? Maybe. We'll see. I want to draw her more pictures. And maybe we can bring her real food? Hospital food is gross. Lucas smiled despite himself. When did you become an expert on hospital food? From when Grandma was sick, remember? The mac and cheese tasted like plastic. The memory hit Lucas like a punch. His mother-in-law's final weeks spent in a hospital not unlike this one. The helpless feeling of watching someone fade. The desperate attempts to bring comfort through small gestures. Good food, familiar music, gentle conversation. He'd failed then. She'd died anyway. All his efforts hadn't been enough. Daddy? Mia's voice was concerned. You're doing the hand thing again. Lucas forced himself to stop. I'm okay, baby. But he wasn't, because he could feel it happening again, that dangerous opening of his heart, that willingness to care despite the inevitable pain it would bring. Elena was sick. She was alone. She needed help. And Lucas, despite every warning bell in his head, wanted to help her, which meant he was setting himself up for loss. Again. That night, after Mia was asleep, Lucas sat at his kitchen table with a cup of coffee he didn't drink and a phone he kept picking up and putting down. He should establish boundaries. Make it clear this was friendship, nothing more. Protect himself and Mia from whatever chaos might come from getting involved with someone whose life was clearly complicated. Instead, he found himself Googling Elena Voss. The results were overwhelming. Elena Voss wasn't just successful. She was a titan, CEO of Voss Industries, a tech conglomerate worth billions, featured in Forbes, Fortune, Time. Named one of the most powerful women in business 3 years running. There were photos, Elena in designer suits speaking at conferences, shaking hands with politicians and celebrities. She looked different in those pictures, harder, more distant. The warmth he'd seen today was completely absent. Lucas scrolled through articles. Voss Industries acquires competitor in hostile takeover. Elena Voss, the ice queen of tech. Former employees described demanding culture under Voss leadership. This was who he'd been visiting? This woman who commanded empires and destroyed competitors? Lucas closed his laptop and pushed it away. It didn't matter. The woman in those articles wasn't the woman in room 427. Money and power and business success. None of that changed the fundamental truth he'd recognized the moment he walked into her hospital room. Elena Voss was alone. And loneliness was something Lucas understood better than anyone. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "The nurse gave me your number. I hope that's okay. I wanted to say thank you again for today. Mia is extraordinary. You both are." Elena Lucas stared at the message. He should keep this professional. Maintain distance. Protect his carefully reconstructed life. He typed, "She had a great time. She wants to bring you food tomorrow because apparently hospital food is gross." The response came quickly. "She's not wrong. But you don't have to do that. I know. We want to." 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. "Lucas, I need you to know something. I'm not good at this. At people. I'll probably say the wrong thing or push too hard or expect too much. I've spent so long being someone who takes and demands and controls that I don't know how to just be someone's friend." Lucas read the message twice. The vulnerability in it was staggering. He wrote back, "I'm not good at this either. I've spent 3 years avoiding exactly this kind of connection. But Mia's right. Nobody should be alone. So let's just figure it out as we go. Okay, but promise me something?" "What?" "If it gets too complicated, if I become too much, you'll tell me. You'll protect Mia. And yourself. Promise me that." Lucas's throat tightened. "I promise." "Good. Thank you. For everything. Sleep well, Lucas." "You too, Elena." Lucas set down his phone and sat in the quiet of his kitchen, listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic. He just made a commitment he wasn't sure he could keep. Because protecting Mia meant protecting himself, and protecting himself meant not caring about Elena Voss. But it was too late for that. He already cared. The next day, Lucas and Mia showed up at the hospital with homemade lasagna. Elena's face when she saw them was worth every minute he'd spent cooking after Mia went to bed. They ate together in her room, Elena in bed, Mia in the chair, Lucas perched awkwardly on the windowsill. The conversation flowed easier than yesterday. Mia told stories about school. Elena asked questions that showed she was actually listening. Lucas watched them both and felt something dangerous blooming in his chest. Hope. "The doctor says I can go home tomorrow," Elena said as they were cleaning up. Lucas felt an unexpected pang. "That's great. You must be excited." Terrified, actually. Elena's smile was wry. "I don't remember the last time I was in my house for more than a few hours. It's going to feel enormous and empty." "You could come to our house," Mia suggested. "It's small, but Daddy makes it nice." "Mia," Lucas started. "That's very sweet," Elena interrupted gently, "but I'm sure your dad has enough to do without adding me to the list. He doesn't mind. He likes helping people, even when he pretends he doesn't." Elena's eyes met Lucas's. "Is that true?" Lucas sighed. Apparently, I'm very transparent. Only to people who pay attention. Lena's expression grew serious. Lucas, I meant what I said in my text. I don't want to be a burden. You've already done more than... Stop, Lucas said quietly. You're not a burden. You're a person who needs help. There's a difference. Is there? Yeah. A burden is something you're obligated to carry. Help is something you choose to give. Elena studied him for a long moment. And you're choosing this? Lucas thought about his carefully controlled life, his routines and boundaries and protective isolation. He thought about the risk of carrying the inevitable pain of loss. Then he looked at Mia, who was watching him with those two smart eyes, and at Elena, who was trying so hard to be strong while clearly falling apart. Yeah, he said, I'm choosing this. Elena's eyes filled with tears she didn't bother hiding. Why? You barely know me. Because 3 weeks ago I walked into the wrong room and found someone who needed to matter to somebody. And I know what that feels like. Lucas's voice roughened. I know what it's like to be surrounded by people who don't see you, to wonder if you disappeared whether anyone would notice. I know that loneliness, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Mia, sensing the emotional weight of the moment, climbed into Elena's bed and hugged her. Elena wrapped her arms around the small girl and closed her eyes. Lucas watched them and thought about wrong doors and right choices and the terrifying beauty of letting people in. The next afternoon, Lucas helped Elena check out of the hospital. She'd arranged for a car service, but when the sleek black sedan pulled up, she hesitated. Come with me? She asked Lucas. Just to the house. I know it's asking a lot, but I don't want to walk into that empty place alone. Lucas should have said no. Should have maintained the boundaries he'd already let slip too far. But Mia was at a friend's house for a play date, and he had 2 hours before pickup, and Elena looked so lost standing there. Okay, he said, but just for a little while. The drive took 30 minutes. They left the city center and entered a neighborhood Lucas had only seen from highways, rolling hills, gated estates, houses that could swallow his entire apartment building. Elena's house was at the end of a long private drive. It was modernist in design, all glass and steel and sharp angles. Beautiful in an austere way, completely devoid of warmth. Welcome to my mausoleum, Elena said dryly as they pulled up. Inside was worse. High ceilings, expensive furniture that looked uncomfortable, art that was clearly valuable but emotionally sterile. Everything was perfect. Nothing was lived in. You live here? Lucas asked before he could stop himself. I sleep here occasionally. I wouldn't call it living. Elena moved through the space like a ghost, touching nothing, her shoulders hunched in a way Lucas had never seen before. Elena, it's awful, isn't it? She turned to face him. I spent $2 million on this place, hired the best designers, filled it with everything money could buy. And I hate it. I've hated it since the day I moved in. Why did you buy it? Because I could. Because it was what successful people did. Because I thought, I don't know what I thought, that it would make me feel accomplished, important. She laughed bitterly. Instead, it just makes me feel alone. Lucas walked through the living room to the floor-to-ceiling windows. The view was spectacular, the city skyline in the distance, sunset painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The view is nice, he offered. I never look at it. I'm never here long enough. Elena joined him at the window. Lucas, I need to tell you something. Okay? I'm thinking about selling the company. Lucas turned to stare at her. What? Voss Industries. I'm thinking about selling it, or stepping down as CEO at minimum. Elena's voice was steady, but her hands shook. Being in that hospital, lying there alone, realizing I'd built an empire but destroyed everything that mattered, it clarified things. That's a big decision. It's the right decision. I can feel it. She looked at him. But it's terrifying. That company is all I have. It's my entire identity. Without it, I don't know who I am. Maybe that's the point, Lucas said quietly. Maybe you need to find out. Elena's breath caught. What if there's nothing there? What if I strip away the CEO and the success and the power, and there's just nothing? There won't be nothing. There'll be you, the person who used to love drawing, who wanted to matter, Who's brave enough to walk away from everything she built because it stopped making her happy? You make it sound simple. It's not simple. It's terrifying. But so is staying in a life that's killing you. Elena moved closer to the window, her reflection ghost-like in the glass. I don't have a roadmap for this. For being a normal person. For having friends and spending time on things that don't generate revenue. For... She trailed off. For what? For letting people see me. The real me. Not the ice queen of tech, or the demanding CEO, or any of the armor I've built. Just Elena. Lucas understood that fear intimately. I don't have a roadmap either. I've been running from connection for 3 years. I don't know how to trust that it won't destroy me again. They stood side by side, two people who'd built elaborate defenses against a world that had hurt them, both terrified of what came next. We're a mess, Elena said softly. Yeah, we really are. But maybe, Elena turned to look at him, maybe we can figure it out together. Lucas knew this was the moment, the choice point. He could walk away now, wish her well, return to his safe, small life. Or he could stay, risk caring, risk loss, risk all the pain he'd sworn to avoid. He thought about Mia's drawing, 3 figures holding hands beneath a bright sun. He thought about Elena's words. Nobody should be alone. He thought about the 3 years he'd spent invisible, irrelevant, safe, but slowly dying inside. Yeah, Lucas heard himself say. Together. Elena's smile was tentative but genuine. I'm going to disappoint you. I'm going to be difficult and demanding and probably push you away when things get hard. I'm going to overthink everything and pull back when I get scared and probably protect myself instead of being honest. So we're both disasters. Absolutely. Elena laughed, and the sound filled that empty, expensive house with something it had never contained before. Life. Lucas's phone buzzed. A text from Mia's friend's mom. Playdate running long. Can I keep her for dinner? He texted back, that would be great, thank you. Stay, Elena said softly. Have dinner with me. Real food, not hospital lasagna. Let me cook for you for once. You cook? I used to, before I forgot how to do anything that wasn't work. Elena's eyes held a challenge. What do you say, Lucas Hale? Ready to see if the Ice Queen knows her way around a kitchen? Lucas should have said no. Should have maintained distance. Should have protected the life he'd so carefully constructed. Instead, he followed Elena into her enormous, sterile kitchen and watched her come alive in a way he'd never seen before, pulling out ingredients, describing the dish she wanted to make, laughing when she couldn't find a basic pan in her own cabinets. They cooked together in that kitchen that had never been used. They talked about everything and nothing. They built something fragile and new and terrifying. And somewhere between chopping vegetables and setting the table, Lucas realized he'd already made his choice. He'd made it the moment he walked into the wrong room 3 weeks ago. He'd chosen to care. And caring, as he was quickly learning, changed everything. The pasta was slightly overcooked and the sauce needed salt, but it was the best meal Lucas had eaten in months. Maybe because Elena had made it with hands that clearly weren't used to cooking anymore, fumbling with the garlic press and laughing when she burned the first batch of onions. Maybe because they'd worked together in easy silence, moving around each other in that enormous kitchen like they'd done it 100 times before. Or maybe because for the first time in 3 years, Lucas wasn't eating alone or forcing down food while helping Mia with homework. He was actually present, actually tasting, actually enjoying the simple act of sharing a meal with another adult. They ate at the dining table that Elena admitted she'd never used, sitting across from each other with candles Elena found still in their packaging shoved in a drawer. This is nice, Elena said quietly, twirling pasta on her fork. I'd forgotten what this felt like. What? Having someone to eat with. My assistant used to schedule working dinners, but those were just meetings with food. This is... She gestured between them. This is different. Lucas knew exactly what she meant. When my wife was alive, dinner was sacred. No matter how tired we were, we'd sit down together, talk about our days, make plans. He paused, the memory both painful and precious. After she died, eating became just fuel, something to get through so I could move on to the next task. What was her name? Sarah? Lucas hadn't said it out loud in months. The name felt strange in his mouth, like a word from a language he used to speak fluently, but had forgotten. We met in college. She was studying to be a teacher. I was working construction to pay tuition. He smiled at the memory. She thought I was an idiot the first time we met. I'd shown up to our literature class covered in drywall dust. Elena's expression softened. How long were you married? 5 years. She got pregnant with Mia right after we graduated. We were broke, living in a terrible apartment, working jobs we hated, but we were happy. Lucas's throat tightened. Then she got sick. Ovarian cancer. Stage 4 by the time they caught it. She fought for 18 months, and then... I'm so sorry. Everyone's sorry. That's what they all said. I'm sorry for your loss. She's in a better place. Time heals all wounds. Lucas heard the bitterness in his voice and tried to soften it. Nobody tells you that grief doesn't actually heal. You just learn to carry it. Some days it's a pebble in your pocket. Other days it's a boulder crushing your chest. Elena reached across the table and took his hand. Her grip was firm, grounding. Is that why you understood? She asked. Why you kept coming back to my room? Because you knew what it felt like to be invisible? After Sarah died, people treated me like I might shatter. They were so careful around me, so gentle, like I was made of glass. And then slowly, they stopped coming around at all, stopped calling, stopped inviting me to things. Lucas stared at their joined hands. I became the sad widower, the guy who reminded everyone that terrible things happen. People don't want to be reminded of that. So you disappeared. I made it easy for them, stopped accepting invitations, stopped reaching out, built a life that was just me and Mia and work. Safe, controlled, predictable. Lonely, Elena added softly. Yeah, that too. They sat in silence for a moment, hands still clasped across the table. I don't have a tragedy like that, Elena finally said. I don't have an excuse for why I ended up alone. I chose it, deliberately, systematically eliminated everyone who might matter, because they were distractions from building my empire. Why? Elena pulled her hand back and stood, moving to the window. The city lights glittered in the distance, cold and beautiful and remote. Because when I was young, I was nobody. Literally nobody. Foster care from age 6. Bounced between families who took the checks but didn't want the kid. I learned early that the only person I could count on was myself. Her reflection in the glass was ghost-like. So I decided to become someone nobody could ignore. Someone so successful, so powerful, so undeniably important that I'd never be invisible again. Lucas joined her at the window. And it worked. Too well. I became exactly what I set out to be. The Ice Queen. The woman who doesn't need anyone, who can't be hurt because she doesn't let anyone close enough to matter. Elena's voice cracked. And then I woke up in a hospital room completely alone, and I realized I'd won the game but destroyed myself in the process. You're not destroyed. I collapsed from exhaustion, Lucas. My body literally shut down because I'd pushed it past every reasonable limit. I have a company worth billions and a house that feels like a mausoleum and not a single person who would notice if I disappeared tomorrow. How is that not destroyed? Lucas wanted to argue, to find words that would fix this, but he understood her pain too intimately. He'd felt that same hollow victory, surviving each day, checking off tasks, proving he could function, all while dying slowly inside. You noticed, Elena whispered. You walked into that wrong room and you noticed I was there, that I mattered. How did you know to do that? Because I needed someone to notice me too. And they didn't, so I noticed you instead. Elena turned to face him, tears streaming down her face. I don't know how to do this. How to be a person instead of a CEO. How to have relationships that aren't transactional. How to let someone care without waiting for the invoice. I don't know how to trust that caring won't destroy me again, Lucas admitted. But maybe we figure it out together. One meal at a time, one conversation, one day of showing up when it would be easier to disappear. That simple? That complicated? Elena laughed through her tears. We're quite a pair. Yeah, we really are. Lucas's phone buzzed. A text from Mia. Can I sleep over? Please, please, please. He texted back. Did you ask Julia's mom first? She said yes. Please, Daddy? Lucas hesitated, his thumb hovering over the screen. Mia rarely asked for sleepovers. She was shy around other kids, preferring the safety of home and her father's presence. This was growth. This was good. But it also meant Lucas had no excuse to leave, no daughter to pick up, no routine to hide behind. He typed, "Okay, I'll drop off your overnight bag in an hour. Love you, baby. Love you too." Lucas pocketed his phone and found Elena watching him. "Sleepover?" she asked. "Yeah, which means I should probably go. Get her stuff together. Or you could stay." Elena's voice was carefully neutral. "Have another glass of wine. Help me figure out what I'm supposed to do with the rest of my life. No pressure, just company." Every instinct screamed at Lucas to leave, to maintain boundaries, to protect himself from the intimacy building between them. Not sexual, but somehow more dangerous. The intimacy of being seen, of being known. "Okay," he heard himself say. "One more glass." They moved to the living room, settling on the uncomfortable designer couch with wine Elena admitted she'd received as a gift and never opened. The conversation drifted from heavy topics to lighter ones. Mia's obsession with drawing, Elena's forgotten love of art, Lucas's terrible taste in movies, Elena's even worse taste in music. "I can't believe you like boy bands," Lucas said, laughing. "They were ironic boy bands, very sophisticated." "There's no such thing as sophisticated boy bands." Spoken like someone with no appreciation for harmonies. Lucas couldn't remember the last time he'd laughed like this. Real laughter. Not the polite chuckles he gave to coworkers or the forced amusement he performed for Mia when he was too tired to feel genuine joy. This was real. This was connection. This was terrifying. "Lucas?" Elena's voice turned serious. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Sure." "Do you think you'll ever let yourself love someone again? After Sarah?" The question hit him like a physical blow. Lucas set down his wine glass, suddenly needing both hands to be doing something. He picked at the label on the bottle, avoiding Elena's gaze. "I don't know," he finally said. "Most days I can't imagine it. The risk feels too big. Loving Sarah, losing her, it almost killed me. If it wasn't for Mia, I'm not sure I would have survived it." He forced himself to meet Elena's eyes. "But lately, I've been wondering if survival without actually living is just a slower way to die." Elena's expression was unreadable. "Is that what we're doing? Learning to live again?" "Maybe. I don't know. Are we?" "I want to." Elena's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "I want to be the kind of person who has friends and hobbies and a life that matters beyond quarterly earnings reports. But I'm scared I've forgotten how. That I've been the ice queen for so long, there's nothing else left. There's more. I've seen it." "When?" "When you talked to Mia. When you laughed about burning the onions. When you admitted you hate this house." Lucas gestured at the sterile perfection surrounding them. "That's not the Ice Queen. That's Elena, the real one." "How do you know the real one isn't terrible?" "Because terrible people don't write notes asking why someone cares about them. They just take what's offered and demand more." Elena pulled her knees to her chest, looking younger and more vulnerable than Lucas had ever seen her. "What if I mess this up? Our friendship or whatever this is becoming? What if I push too hard or ask for too much or forget how to be considerate because I've spent so long only thinking about myself?" "Then we'll deal with it. I'll tell you when you're pushing too hard. You'll tell me when I'm pulling away. We'll figure it out." "You make it sound easy." "It won't be easy, but maybe it'll be worth it." Elena studied him for a long moment. "Why are you so kind to me? I haven't earned it. I don't deserve it." "Kindness isn't something you earn. It's something you give because everyone deserves to be treated like they matter." "Is that what you tell Mia?" Lucas smiled. "Every single day, even when she's driving me crazy." "She's lucky to have you." "I'm lucky to have her. She's the only reason I didn't completely disappear after Sarah died. I had to keep showing up, for her, even when showing up felt impossible." Elena's eyes filled with tears again. "I don't have that. I don't have a person who needs me to show up. Who cares if I exist or not?" "You have me now," Lucas said before he could think better of it. "And Mia, we care. We want you to show up." "Why?" "Because you matter. Because beneath all the armor and the success and the Ice Queen reputation, You're just a person who deserves to have someone give a damn. And I do. I give a damn. The words hung in the air between them. Heavy with meaning, Lucas wasn't ready to examine too closely. Elena wiped her eyes and attempted a smile. You're very dangerous, Lucas Hale. Dangerous how? You make me believe things might actually get better. That's the most dangerous thing of all. Lucas understood that fear intimately. Hope was terrifying when you'd learned to survive without it. They talked until nearly midnight, the conversation flowing from serious to silly and back again. Elena shared stories about her early days building Voss Industries, sleeping in her office, living on vending machine food, working 18-hour days fueled by desperation and determination. Lucas told her about his construction years, the jobs that had destroyed his back but paid for Sarah's medical bills, the careful balance of earning enough while still being present for Mia. Do you ever resent it? Elena asked, having to sacrifice so much? For Mia, never. She's the best thing that ever happened to me. I meant the sacrifices you made for Sarah, the medical bills, the jobs you hated. Lucas considered the question. I used to. In the beginning, when the grief was fresh and I was drowning in debt and exhaustion, I'd think about what our life could have been if she'd stayed healthy, if we'd had more time, if I hadn't had to destroy my body just to keep her alive a few more months. He paused. But that resentment was just another face of grief. It passed. What I'm left with is gratitude that I got to love her at all, that we had Mia, that I have these 5 years of memories that nobody can take away. That's beautiful. It's survival. I had to reframe it or drown in bitterness. Elena was quiet for a moment. I don't have any beautiful memories. Nothing I can reframe. Just years of ruthless ambition and burned bridges and people I hurt because they were in my way. So make new memories, better ones. Starting when? Lucas glanced at his watch. How about right now? It's late. You just got out of the hospital. You should probably sleep. And I should get Mia's overnight bag to her friend's house. Or, Elena said carefully, you could crash in the guest room. It's late. You're tired. And honestly, the idea of being alone in this house tonight makes me want to check myself back into the hospital. Lucas knew he should decline. Knew this was crossing yet another line. But Elena looked so lost in her enormous empty house, and he was tired of the constant vigilance required to protect himself from connection. Okay, he said. But I need to drop off Mia's stuff first. Elena's relief was visible. Thank you. Lucas drove to Julia's house, handed off the overnight bag to a grateful mother, kissed his daughter goodnight through the doorway, and tried to ignore the knowing look Mia gave him. You're helping Miss Elena, right? Mia whispered. Yeah, baby. She needs a friend right now. Good. She needs you, Daddy. I can tell. Lucas hugged his too perceptive daughter and promised to pick her up in the morning. When he returned to Elena's house, she'd changed into sweatpants and an oversized shirt, the first time Lucas had seen her in anything that wasn't hospital wear or elegant casual clothes. She looked younger, more real. She showed him to a guest room that was predictably perfect and impersonal. Everything was expensive and untouched, luxury hotel rather than actual home. I don't think anyone's ever slept here, Elena admitted. I bought guest furniture because that's what you're supposed to have, but I never invite anyone over. Well, I'm honored to break it in. Elena lingered in the doorway. Lucas, thank you for staying, for not making me be alone tonight. You don't have to thank me. Yes, I do. You keep showing up when I need someone, and I'm not used to that. I need to acknowledge it. Lucas crossed the room and stood in front of her. On impulse, he pulled her into a hug. Elena stiffened for a moment, then melted into it, her arms wrapping around him tightly. They stood there in the doorway for a long moment, two broken people holding each other up. Sleep well, Lucas finally said, pulling back. You too. Elena disappeared down the hallway. Lucas closed the door and sat on the edge of the pristine bed, his heart racing. What was he doing? This wasn't just helping anymore. This was something else. Something that felt dangerously like caring in a way that went beyond friendship. Lucas pulled out his phone and stared at his background photo. Him and Mia at the park, both smiling, caught in a moment of pure joy. This was his life. This was what mattered. This simple, safe world he'd built where nothing could hurt them. Elena Voss was chaos. She was complexity. She was a woman with a billion-dollar empire and demons Lucas couldn't begin to understand. Getting involved with her, even as a friend, meant inviting unpredictability into his carefully controlled existence. But lying in that guest bed, staring at the ceiling of a house that felt like a museum, Lucas realized something that terrified him. He didn't want safe anymore. He wanted real. And Elena, for all her complications, was the most real thing he'd encountered in 3 years. The next morning, Lucas woke to the smell of coffee and burning toast. He found Elena in the kitchen, scowling at a smoking toaster. "I forgot I'm terrible at breakfast," she announced. Lucas laughed and rescued the charred bread. "How about I handle breakfast and you handle coffee?" "Deal." They worked in comfortable silence, Lucas scrambling eggs while Elena figured out her complicated espresso machine. It felt domestic in a way that should have scared him, but instead felt oddly right. "I have a board meeting today," Elena said as they ate. "First one since I collapsed. I've been dreading it." "Why?" "Because I need to tell them I'm stepping down as CEO, that I'm selling my majority stake in the company, that the Ice Queen is melting." She attempted a smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. "They're going to think I've lost my mind." "Have you?" "Maybe, probably. I'm walking away from everything I've built because a stranger brought me flowers and made me realize I was miserable." "That sounds insane when I say it out loud." Lucas set down his fork. "Or it sounds like you finally woke up. Sometimes the craziest thing is staying in a life that's killing you." "What if I regret it? What if I sell the company and step away and discover that without Voss Industries, I'm nothing?" "Then you build something new, something that actually makes you happy." I don't know what makes me happy. I forgot." "So figure it out. You have time, money, freedom to explore. Most people never get that chance." Elena picked at her eggs. "Will you come with me to the board meeting? I know it's asking a lot, but I could use someone in my corner, someone who isn't shocked by my decision because they already know why I'm making it." Lucas's immediate instinct was to say no. Board meetings weren't his world. He'd be completely out of place among executives and shareholders and corporate politics. But Elena looked terrified beneath her composed exterior, and Lucas had promised to show up. "What time?" he asked. Relief flooded Elena's face. 2 o'clock. Downtown. I'll have my driver pick you up." "I can drive myself." "Lucas, you'll be doing me a favor. Let me do this small thing for you." It wasn't small. Accepting a car service, attending a board meeting, stepping into Elena's world, these were all markers of how far they'd come from those anonymous hospital visits. "Okay," Lucas said, "but I need to pick up Mia first. Make sure she gets to school." "Of course." Lucas left Elena's house at 8, drove to Julia's to collect his daughter, endured her knowing questions about where he'd spent the night, and got her to school with 2 minutes to spare. Then he went home, showered, and stared at his closet. He didn't own a suit, didn't own dress shoes. His entire wardrobe consisted of work clothes and casual basics. Nothing remotely appropriate for a billionaire's board meeting. Lucas pulled out his least worn jeans and a button-down shirt Sarah had bought him years ago. It would have to do. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He was just there to support Elena. The car service arrived at 1:30, a sleek black sedan driven by a man in a suit who called him Mr. Hale and opened doors. Lucas felt ridiculous climbing into the back seat. The drive downtown took 20 minutes. They pulled up to a gleaming office tower that stretched toward the sky like a monument to ambition. Lucas's warehouse job suddenly felt very small and very far away. Elena met him in the lobby, transformed back into the woman from the Forbes photos. Tailored suit, perfect makeup, hairstyled with precision. The Ice Queen had returned, except when she saw Lucas, her expression cracked into genuine relief. "You came," she said. "I said I would." "I know, but I wasn't sure you'd actually show up. This world." She gestured at the marble lobby, the rushing executives, the obvious wealth. "It's not your world." "No," Lucas agreed. "But you are, and I'm here for you, not the world." Elena's eyes filled with tears. She blinked away rapidly. "I need to hold it together for the next hour. Don't be kind to me or I'll fall apart." "Okay, I'll be terrible instead." She laughed and some of the tension left her shoulders. "Come on, let's go face the firing squad." The boardroom was on the 20th floor, all glass walls and expensive furniture, and a view that probably cost more than Lucas made in a year. 10 people sat around a massive table, all watching Elena with expressions ranging from concern to calculation. Elena took her seat at the head of the table. Lucas stood awkwardly near the door, unsure where he fit in this choreographed corporate dance. "Who's this?" an older man asked, eyeing Lucas suspiciously. "This is Lucas Hale," Elena said calmly. "A friend. He's here at my invitation. Board meetings are confidential, and I'm the majority shareholder. Lucas stays." The man subsided, but his expression remained hostile. Lucas found an empty chair along the wall and tried to make himself invisible. Elena began the meeting with typical business: quarterly earnings, new contracts, ongoing projects. Her voice was steady, professional, completely controlled. This was the Ice Queen in her element, commanding a room full of powerful people with effortless authority. Then she dropped the bomb. "Before we move to new business, I have an announcement. I'm stepping down as CEO, effective in 60 days. I'm also selling my majority stake in Voss Industries." The room exploded. Everyone spoke at once, voices raised in shock and anger and confusion. Elena sat calmly at the head of the table, waiting for the chaos to subside. "You can't be serious," the hostile man said. "You built this company. It's your entire life." "That's exactly the problem, Marcus. It became my entire life, and I nearly died because of it. You had a health scare. That's not a reason to burn down everything you've built. It's not a health scare when your body literally shuts down from exhaustion. It's a wake-up call, one I'm choosing to answer." A woman in her 50s leaned forward. "Elena, I understand you've been through something traumatic, but this is a rash decision. Give yourself time to recover before making such a drastic change." "I've had 3 weeks to think about nothing but this, Jennifer. It's not rash, it's overdue." The arguments continued, each board member trying a different angle. Concern for Elena's well-being, fear for the company's future, barely disguised self-interest about their own positions and investments. Elena remained unmoved. "My decision is final," she said when the voices finally quieted. "I'll work with the board to ensure a smooth transition. I'll help select my replacement. But I'm done. Voss Industries will survive without me. It might even thrive." "What will you do?" someone asked. "I have no idea." Elena's smile was genuine. "And that's the most exciting thing I've said in years." The meeting continued for another hour, Elena fielding questions and outlining timelines with the same competence she'd shown running the company. Lucas watched her navigate this hostile terrain with admiration. This was what she was walking away from: power, influence, the identity she'd built over decades. And she was doing it with grace and certainty. When the meeting finally ended, the board members filed out, most avoiding Elena's gaze. Marcus lingered. "You're making a mistake," he said quietly. "You'll regret this." "Maybe," Elena agreed, "but I'll regret it while actually living my life. That's better than dying slowly in this chair." Marcus shook his head and left. Elena collapsed back in her chair, the perfect composure cracking. "That was harder than I expected." Lucas moved to sit beside her. "You were amazing." "I was terrifying. Even I was scared of myself." "Good. They needed to know you were serious." Elena turned to look at him. "Did you hear what I said? I have no idea what I'm doing next. No plan. No roadmap. Just nothing." "That's not nothing. That's possibility. It's terrifying." "Yeah, but you're not facing it alone." Elena reached for his hand, gripping it tightly. "Thank you for being here. For not thinking I'm insane." "Oh, I definitely think you're insane, but in a good way." She laughed, the sound echoing in the empty boardroom. "What now?" "Now we pick up Mia from school and get ice cream, because that's what you do when you've had a hard day." "Ice cream solves hard days?" "According to Mia, ice cream solves everything." Elena stood, still holding Lucas's hand. "Okay, let's get ice cream. And then maybe you can help me figure out what the hell I'm supposed to do with the rest of my life." "One day at a time," Lucas said, "starting with ice cream." They left the building together, Elena's heels clicking on the marble floor, Lucas's worn boots a counterpoint. Behind them, Voss Industries continued its operations, soon to be under new leadership. Ahead of them was uncertainty, possibility. the terrifying freedom of choice. And somehow, despite all the reasons it shouldn't work, they were facing it together. Mia chose chocolate with rainbow sprinkles. Elena ordered vanilla, then changed it to strawberry, then laughed at herself for being indecisive about ice cream flavors. Lucas got coffee, the same order he'd been getting since college, and they sat at a sticky plastic table in a shop that was about as far from corporate boardrooms as possible. Elena looked wildly out of place in her tailored suit, eating ice cream with a 7-year-old who was explaining in great detail why chocolate was scientifically proven to be the best flavor. It has cocoa, which comes from beans, which means it's basically a vegetable, Mia declared with absolute certainty. That's not how vegetables work, baby, Lucas said. It's how I want them to work. Elena laughed, genuinely delighted. I like your logic, Mia. Very creative interpretation of nutrition. Daddy says I'm too smart for my own good. Your daddy's right. Elena caught Lucas's eye across the table, and something warm passed between them. But being too smart is better than the alternative. They finished their ice cream while Mia chattered about her day at school, the sleepover, and her latest drawing project. Elena listened with complete attention, asking questions that showed she was actually interested, not just being polite. Lucas watched them interact and felt something shift in his chest. This wasn't just him helping Elena anymore. This was becoming something else, something that included Mia, something that looked dangerously like a life beyond survival. When Mia excused herself to throw away her napkin, Elena leaned across the table. Is this okay? She asked quietly. Me being part of your time with her? I don't want to intrude on what you two have. You're not intruding. She likes you. I like her too. She's remarkable. Elena paused. But Lucas, I need you to tell me if this is too much, if I'm inserting myself into your life in ways that aren't healthy or appropriate. I don't have a good gauge for boundaries. Lucas considered the question honestly. A month ago, anyone getting this close to him and Mia would have triggered every protective instinct he possessed. But Elena felt different. She wasn't trying to replace Sarah or become something she wasn't. She was just present, genuine, trying to figure out how to be a person again. It's not too much, he said. But Elena, I need you to be honest with me too. About what you're expecting from this. From us. I don't know what I'm expecting. I've never had friends before. Not real ones. I don't know what normal friendship looks like. This isn't entirely normal friendship either, Lucas admitted. Elena's eyes widened slightly. What do you mean? Before Lucas could answer, Mia returned, climbing back into her seat and launching into a story about a boy at school who'd brought a lizard for show and tell. The moment passed, but the question hung between them, unanswered. They drove Mia home in Elena's car, the driver navigating evening traffic while Mia played games on a tablet, and the adults sat in charged silence. Lucas felt hyper-aware of Elena beside him, the way she twisted her rings when she was thinking, the slight tension in her shoulders, the careful distance she maintained between them in the back seat. At Lucas's apartment building, Elena insisted on walking them up. Lucas didn't argue, though he felt suddenly self-conscious about his modest home. The hallways were clean but worn, the carpet frayed, the fluorescent lighting harsh. Elena didn't seem to notice or care. Inside the apartment, Mia immediately disappeared into her room to change out of her school clothes. Lucas stood awkwardly in the small living room, seeing it through Elena's eyes. The secondhand furniture, the cluttered bookshelves, the walls that needed painting. It's not much, he started. It's wonderful, Elena interrupted. She moved through the space slowly, taking in the details. Family photos on the wall. Mia's drawing stuck to the refrigerator with magnets. A blanket draped over the couch, worn soft from use. It feels like a home, like people actually live here. As opposed to your place? My place feels like a museum exhibit. Beautiful, but dead. Elena picked up a framed photo from the bookshelf. Lucas, Sarah, and baby Mia, all smiling. Is this her? Yeah, about a year before she got sick. Elena studied the photo carefully. She was beautiful, and she looks happy. We were happy, for a while. I'm sorry I'll never get to meet her. I think I would have liked her. Lucas's throat tightened. Nobody ever said things like that. They apologized for his loss, offered hollow platitudes, but nobody acknowledged Sarah as a person they might have wanted to know. She would have liked you too, he said. She was good at seeing through people's defenses, would have had you figured out in 5 minutes. Terrifying and appealing in equal measure. Elena set down the photo gently. Lucas, about what you said earlier, about this not being normal friendship. What did you mean? Lucas opened his mouth to deflect, to make a joke, to protect himself from vulnerability. But he was tired of hiding. I mean, I care about you, more than I've cared about anyone who wasn't my daughter in 3 years. And that scares the hell out of me because I don't know what to do with it. Elena's breath caught. I care about you too. Both of you. And I don't know what to do with it either because I've never cared about anyone without trying to control or manage or use it to my advantage. So we're both terrified. Completely. They stood in Lucas's small living room, 2 feet apart, the air between them charged with everything they weren't saying. Daddy, Mia called from her room. Can Ms. Elena stay for dinner? The spell broke. Elena laughed, the tension easing slightly. I should go, she said. You two need your routine, and I need to start figuring out what I'm doing with my life. Stay, Lucas heard himself say. It's just spaghetti and probably homework battles, but stay. Please. Elena's expression softened. You're sure? I'm sure. Dinner was chaotic in the best way. Mia insisted on helping cook, which meant sauce splattered everywhere and noodles ended up on the floor. Elena laughed more than Lucas had ever heard, especially when Mia accidentally dropped a meatball and it rolled under the refrigerator. They ate at Lucas's small kitchen table, elbows bumping, Mia talking nonstop between bites. It was nothing like the elegant meal they'd shared at Elena's house. It was messy and loud and imperfect. It was real. After dinner, Lucas helped Mia with her math homework while Elena did the dishes, insisting she wanted to help. Lucas watched her navigate his tiny kitchen, looking more at ease than she had in her own designer space. When Mia's homework was done, she begged Elena to draw with her. They spread out on the living room floor with markers and paper, creating elaborate pictures while Lucas cleaned up the remaining dinner mess. From the kitchen, he could hear their conversation. Do you have kids, Ms. Elena? Mia asked. No, sweetheart, I never did. Why not? I was too busy with work. I thought I had plenty of time, and then suddenly I didn't. That's sad. You'd be a good mom. What makes you say that? Because you listen, and you don't talk to me like I'm a baby, and you make Daddy smile. Lucas paused in the kitchen, dish towel in hand, his heart hammering. Your daddy makes me smile too, Elena said softly. He's a very special person. I know. That's why I worry about him. You worry about your dad? He's sad a lot since Mommy died. He tries to hide it, but I can tell. He doesn't have friends, doesn't do fun things, just works and takes care of me. Mia's voice was matter-of-fact, the way children spoke hard truths. But since he met you, he's different, less sad, more like how he is in the old pictures with Mommy. Lucas heard Elena's voice break slightly. That means a lot to me, Mia. Thank you for telling me. You're different too. How so? When Daddy first talked about you, he said you were alone in the hospital, but now you're not alone anymore. You have us. Lucas couldn't listen anymore. He returned to the living room, fighting the emotion rising in his chest. Elena looked up at him, her eyes shining. Everything okay? Yeah, perfect. Lucas cleared his throat. Mia, it's almost bedtime. But Mrs. Elena just got here. Ms. Elena has been here for 3 hours, baby. Time for bed. Mia pouted but didn't argue. She hugged Elena goodnight, holding on longer than necessary. Will you come back? Mia asked. If your dad says it's okay. It's okay, Lucas said immediately. It's more than okay. After Mia was tucked in and the bedtime routine completed, Lucas found Elena standing by the living room window, looking out at the parking lot below. You have an incredible daughter, she said without turning around. I know. She worries about you. I know that too. Elena turned to face him. Lucas, I need to tell you something. The seriousness in her tone sent alarm through him. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Everything's actually right, and that's what scares me. Elena twisted her rings anxiously. I'm falling for you, for both of you, for this life you've built, and the person you are, and the way you make me feel like I might actually deserve good things. Lucas's world tilted. Elena, Let me finish, please. She took a shaky breath. I know this is complicated. I know I'm a mess. I know I come with baggage and trauma and a complete inability to do relationships like a normal person. But I need you to know that what I feel is real and terrifying, and I don't know what to do with it except tell you the truth. Lucas crossed the room slowly, stopping in front of her. I'm falling for you too. Have been since the day you told me I was stuck with you. Maybe even before that. Really? Really? And you're right. It's terrifying, because I swore I'd never do this again, never risk my heart, never let someone close enough to destroy me. He reached out and took her hand. But here we are. Here we are, Elena echoed. They stood there in Lucas's small living room, hands clasped, everything unspoken finally acknowledged. What do we do now? Elena asked. I don't know. Figure it out as we go, I guess. That's not much of a plan. It's the only plan I've got. Elena smiled, and Lucas felt something in his chest unlock completely. Okay, let's figure it out together. She left soon after, and Lucas stood at the window watching her car pull away, his mind racing. He'd just admitted feelings he'd been trying to ignore for weeks, feelings that had no business existing between a warehouse worker and a billionaire CEO. Feelings that could complicate everything and hurt everyone involved, especially Mia. But they were real, and Lucas was tired of pretending otherwise. The next 2 weeks fell into a pattern. Elena came over most evenings for dinner. She and Mia drew together. She asked Lucas about his day and actually listened to the answer. She started learning to cook, burning things frequently but laughing about it. She was trying, really trying to build a life that meant something beyond corporate success. Lucas watched her transformation with wonder. The Ice Queen was melting, revealing someone softer underneath. Someone who laughed at Mia's terrible jokes and cried at animated movies and admitted when she didn't know how to do something. Someone real. But reality had a way of intruding. 3 weeks after Elena's board meeting announcement, Lucas got a call at work. The warehouse manager asking him to come to the office. Lucas's stomach dropped. This was never good. In the cramped office, his manager looked uncomfortable. Lucas, we need to talk about your schedule. What about it? You've been leaving early, coming in late, taking longer lunches. The manager held up a hand when Lucas started to protest. I'm not blaming you. Personal stuff happens, but we need consistency. Other guys are complaining they're picking up your slack. Lucas felt heat rise in his face. He'd been so focused on Elena, on building this new connection, that he'd let his work slide. Not dramatically, but enough to be noticed. It won't happen again, he said. See that it doesn't. You're a good worker, Lucas. I don't want to lose you, but I can't play favorites either. Lucas left the office feeling like he'd been punched. He'd been so careful for 3 years, so controlled. And in a few weeks of letting Elena into his life, he'd jeopardized the job that fed his daughter. That night, he told Elena about it after Mia went to bed. Quit, she said immediately. What? Quit the warehouse job. You hate it anyway. I can help you find something better. Elena, I can't just quit. I have bills, responsibilities, a daughter who needs to eat. I know that, but you're destroying your body for minimum wage and no benefits. There have to be better options. Better options require time I don't have, and I'm not taking money from you. Elena's expression hardened. Why not? Because that's not what this is. I'm not with you for your money. I never said you were, but I have resources. Why shouldn't I use them to help someone I care about? Because it changes things, Lucas said, frustration rising. It makes this transactional, makes me dependent. I can't be dependent on you, Elena. I need to be able to stand on my own. That's pride talking. Maybe. But it's my pride, my choice. They stared at each other across his small living room, the first real conflict between them crackling in the air. Elena backed down first. Okay, I'm sorry. You're right. It's your choice. But the damage was done. A line had been drawn. Elena's wealth and Lucas's lack of it, previously unacknowledged, now sat between them like a wall. Lucas doubled down at work, picking up extra shifts, arriving early, staying late. He saw less of Elena, and when they did spend time together, there was a new tension neither acknowledged. 2 days later, Mia got sick. It started as a cough, then wheezing, then struggling to breathe. Lucas rushed her to the emergency room, terror clawing at his chest as he watched his daughter fight for air. Asthma attack. Severe. They admitted her overnight for observation and breathing treatments. Lucas sat beside her hospital bed, holding her small hand, memories of Sarah's illness crashing over him. Hospitals meant death. Hospitals meant loss. Hospitals meant watching someone you loved suffer while you stood helpless. His phone buzzed. Elena, asking if she could visit. Lucas stared at the message. He wanted to say yes. Wanted her presence. Wanted someone to hold him up while he fell apart. But accepting her comfort felt like accepting her money, like admitting he needed her in ways that made him vulnerable. He texted back, "Not a good time. I'll call you tomorrow." Elena's response was immediate. "I'm here if you need me." But Lucas couldn't need her, couldn't let himself depend on someone who could disappear, who could decide this was too complicated and walk away, taking the stability Mia had started to count on with her. Mia recovered quickly. Pediatric resilience was a beautiful thing. By morning, she was breathing normally, asking for breakfast, complaining about the hospital TV selection. Lucas took her home, called in sick to work, and tried to pretend his world wasn't slowly fracturing. Elena showed up that evening anyway. Lucas opened the door to find her standing there with groceries and a determined expression. "You said not a good time for the hospital," she said. "You didn't say not a good time, period. So I'm here, and I brought ingredients for soup. Elena, you don't have to." "I know I don't have to. I want to. Can I come in, or are we having this conversation in the hallway?" Lucas stepped aside. Elena moved past him into the apartment, finding Mia on the couch watching cartoons. She set down the groceries and sat beside her. "Hey, sweetheart, I heard you had a rough night." Mia nodded, looking smaller than usual in her oversized pajamas. "My asthma got really bad. I couldn't breathe good, and Daddy got scared." "That sounds really scary. How are you feeling now?" "Better. The hospital gave me medicine that made it easier." "Good." Elena hugged her gently. "I'm glad you're okay." In the kitchen, Lucas unpacked the groceries Elena had brought. Chicken, vegetables, fresh bread, everything needed for homemade soup. Elena joined him, rolling up her sleeves. "Tell me what to do." "You don't have to help." "Lucas," Elena's voice was firm, "stop pushing me away. I know you're scared. I know last night brought up terrible memories. I know you want to handle everything alone because that's how you've survived. But I'm not leaving just because things get hard, so please, let me help." Lucas felt something break inside him. The careful control he'd maintained since Sarah's death, the walls he'd built to keep everyone at a safe distance, the fear that had governed every decision for 3 years. It cracked. And for once, he didn't try to repair it. "I was terrified," he admitted, his voice rough. "Seeing Mia like that, unable to breathe, watching her struggle. All I could think about was Sarah, how I couldn't save her, how I'm going to lose everyone I love no matter what I do." Elena moved closer. "You're not going to lose Mia. She's okay. Kids with asthma manage it all the time. But what if next time she's not okay? What if something worse happens? What if I'm not enough? Then you won't face it alone. Because I'll be there. For both of you." Elena took his hands. "Lucas, I love you. I love your daughter. I love the life you're trying to build despite everything that's tried to break you. And I'm not going anywhere." Lucas stared at her, those 3 words echoing in his head. "I love you." "You can't love me," he said. "You barely know me. I know you better than I've known anyone in my entire life. I know you're kind and stubborn and terrified of needing anyone. I know you put Mia first always, even when it costs you. I know you walked into a hospital room 3 weeks ago and changed my entire life by giving a damn about a stranger." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "So yes, I can love you. And I do." "Elena, you don't have to say it back. I'm not expecting that. I just needed you to know. Because you're pulling away and I can feel it and I can't lose you. Not now. Not when I've just figured out what living actually feels like." Lucas pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly. "I'm not pulling away because I don't care. I'm pulling away because I care too much and it terrifies me." "Then be terrified with me, not alone." They stood there in his kitchen, holding each other while Mia watched cartoons in the next room, and Lucas let himself feel everything he'd been fighting: fear, hope, love. the terrifying possibility of happiness. I love you too, he whispered into Elena's hair. I don't know how to do this. Don't know how to trust it won't all fall apart. But I love you. Elena pulled back to look at him, tears streaming down her face. We'll figure it out. Together. Together, Lucas agreed. They made soup together, moving around his small kitchen with the ease of people learning each other's rhythms. They ate with Mia, the three of them squashed around the kitchen table. They did the dishes while Mia took a bath, and then watched a movie together on the couch. It was ordinary, domestic, everything Lucas had thought he'd never have again. And it was terrifying, because now he had something to lose. Again. After Mia fell asleep and Elena prepared to leave, Lucas walked her to the door. Stay, he said quietly. Elena looked surprised. Lucas, I don't think... Not like that. Just stay. Sleep in my room. Let me hold you. Let me trust that you'll still be here in the morning. Elena's expression softened. Okay. They fell asleep in Lucas's bed, fully clothed, holding each other. And when Lucas woke in the middle of the night, panicked from a dream about loss, Elena was there, solid, real, present. Morning came too early. Elena had early meetings about the company transition. Lucas had to get Mia to school and himself to work. Reality intruded on the fragile peace they'd built. But as Elena left, she kissed him at the door. A real kiss, gentle and promising and full of everything they'd both been too scared to acknowledge. I meant what I said, she told him. I love you, and I'm not going anywhere. Lucas watched her drive away and realized with sudden clarity that he'd reached a decision point. He could keep fighting this, keep protecting himself, keep running from anything that might hurt him. Or he could choose to live, really live, risk everything for the possibility of happiness. He chose happiness. That afternoon, he called Elena. I want you to meet my wife's parents, he said. Silence on the other end. Then, are you sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. They're Mia's grandparents. They're important to us. If this is real, if we're actually doing this, they should know you. Lucas, that's a huge step. I know, but I'm tired of being scared. I'm tired of half living. You jumped off a cliff when you walked away from your company. Maybe it's time I jumped too. Elena's voice was thick with emotion. When? This weekend, Saturday. Casual. Just dinner at their place. Okay, I'll be there. Lucas hung up and sat in his car, hands shaking. He just committed to introducing Elena to Sarah's parents, to making this relationship real and acknowledged and impossible to pretend was just friendship. He was terrified. But for the first time in 3 years, Lucas was choosing to be terrified instead of numb, choosing to risk pain for the possibility of joy, choosing to live. The call to Sarah's parents was one of the hardest conversations Lucas had ever initiated. He sat in his car during lunch break, phone in hand, rehearsing words that felt impossible to say. Finally, he dialed. Lucas! Margaret's voice was warm, surprised. Is everything okay? Is Mia all right? Everyone's fine. I wanted to talk to you and Tom about something. Of course, what is it? Lucas took a breath. I've been seeing someone. It's new, but it's serious. And I'd like you to meet her, this Saturday, if that works. The silence stretched so long, Lucas thought the call had dropped. Margaret. I'm here. I'm just surprised. That's wonderful, Lucas. Really wonderful. Her voice wavered slightly. We've been worried about you. You've been alone for so long. I know, and I need you to understand that this doesn't change how I feel about Sarah. She'll always be Mia's mother. She'll always matter. We know that, sweetheart. We've never doubted it. Margaret's voice steadied. What's her name? Elena. Elena Voss. Another pause. The Elena Voss? From the news? Lucas had forgotten that Elena's departure from Voss Industries had made headlines. Yeah, that's her? Well, Margaret sounded impressed despite herself. You certainly don't do anything halfway, do you? It's not about the money or the success. She's a good person who's been alone too long, like me. Then we'd love to meet her. Saturday at 6? Perfect. Thank you, Margaret. Lucas, I'm happy for you. Truly, Sarah would want you to be happy. Lucas's throat tightened. I hope so. When Saturday arrived, Lucas was a wreck. He'd changed clothes 3 times, lectured Mia about being on her best behavior until she rolled her eyes at him and checked the time compulsively. Elena arrived at 5:30, giving them time to drive together. She looked beautiful, but understated in jeans and a simple sweater, clearly having taken care not to appear too polished or intimidating. "How are you feeling?" she asked as Lucas helped her into his car. "Terrified." "You?" "Same. What if they hate me?" "They won't hate you." "What if they think I'm trying to replace Sarah?" Lucas took her hand. "You're not replacing anyone. You're just adding something new. There's a difference." Mia chattered from the back seat about her latest drawing project, blissfully unaware of the tension radiating from the adults. Elena engaged with her questions, but Lucas could see the anxiety in the way she twisted her rings. Margaret and Tom lived in a modest house in the suburbs, the kind of place where neighbors knew each other and kids played in the streets. Tom answered the door, his weathered face breaking into a smile when he saw Mia. "There's my favorite granddaughter." I'm your only granddaughter, Grandpa." "Which makes you automatically the favorite. Can't argue with logic." Mia hugged him fiercely, and Tom's eyes found Lucas over her head, then shifted to Elena. Lucas saw the moment of recognition, the flash of something, grief maybe, or fear, before Tom's expression settled into cautious welcome. "You must be Elena. I'm Tom. Come in, please." Inside, Margaret was setting the table, and she turned when they entered. Lucas watched her take in Elena, saw the same complicated mix of emotions cross her face. But Margaret was gracious. She always had been. "Elena, it's lovely to meet you. Lucas has told us so much about you. He's told me wonderful things about both of you as well." Elena's voice was steady, but Lucas could hear the nervousness underneath. "Thank you for having me in your home." Dinner was awkward at first, polite conversation about nothing important, the weather, Mia's school, Tom's recent retirement from the fire department, everyone dancing around the elephant in the room. Then Mia, with her characteristic inability to read social cues, asked the question everyone was avoiding. "Grandma, do you think Mommy would like Ms. Elena?" The table went silent. Margaret set down her fork carefully. "That's a big question, sweetheart." "But would she?" "Because Daddy loves Ms. Elena now, and I love her too, and I want to make sure Mommy wouldn't be sad." Lucas felt like his chest was being crushed. "Mia, we don't have to talk about this right now. But I want to know." Mia looked at her grandmother with complete trust. "You knew Mommy better than anyone except Daddy. Would she be sad?" Margaret's eyes filled with tears. She looked at Lucas, then at Elena, then back at Mia. "No, baby, your Mommy wouldn't be sad. She'd be happy that your Daddy found someone who makes him smile again. She'd be happy that you have another person who cares about you." Margaret's voice broke slightly. "Your Mommy's biggest fear, before she died, was that your Daddy would be alone forever. She made him promise to let himself live again, to let himself love again." Lucas felt tears streaming down his face. He'd never told anyone about that conversation with Sarah in her final days. Hadn't realized Margaret knew. "She made me promise too," Margaret continued, "made me promise not to let Lucas hide from life. Not to let grief win." She looked at Elena directly. "So if you make him happy, if you care about our granddaughter, then you're welcome here, more than welcome." Elena was crying too. "I do care about them, both of them, more than I knew was possible." Tom cleared his throat roughly. "Well then, that's settled. Now can we please eat before this pot roast gets any colder?" The tension broke, laughter mixed with tears. And slowly, the conversation became real. Margaret asked Elena about her work, and Elena talked honestly about walking away from her company, about realizing success without meaning was just another kind of failure. Tom shared stories about Sarah, gentle memories that made her present without making her a ghost that haunted them. Lucas watched Elena integrate into this family that had been his anchor through the worst years of his life, and felt something settle in his chest. This could work. This complicated, messy, imperfect situation could actually work. After dinner, while Tom and Mia worked on a puzzle, Margaret pulled Lucas and Elena aside. "I need to say something, and I need to say it to both of you." Margaret's expression was serious. "Lucas, you've been so good to us. You let us stay in Mia's life even when it must have been painful. You never shut us out. But sweetheart, You've been dying slowly for 3 years. We've watched it happen and felt helpless to stop it. Margaret, let me finish. Elena, I don't know you well, but I can see what you've done for him. He's alive again, really alive, and that's a gift I can never repay. Margaret took both their hands. But I need you both to understand something. Love is fragile. It requires work and honesty and the courage to be vulnerable even when it's terrifying. Sarah and Lucas had that. If you two are going to build something real, you need it too. We're trying, Elena said quietly. I know. I can see it. Margaret squeezed their hands. Just promise me you'll keep trying, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. We promise, Lucas said. Margaret nodded, satisfied. Good. Now go help Tom with that puzzle before he cheats. He always cheats. The evening ended with hugs and promises to visit again soon. Mia fell asleep in the car on the drive home, exhausted from emotion and too much dessert. Lucas carried her up to the apartment while Elena followed, both of them quiet. After Mia was in bed, they collapsed on the couch together. That was intense, Elena said. Yeah, but good, I think. Very good. Your in-laws are remarkable people. They are. They've been my family since I lost mine. Lucas pulled Elena closer. Thank you for doing that. I know it wasn't easy. It was worth it. To see you in context, to understand where you come from, and what you've survived. Elena shifted to look at him. Lucas, I need to tell you something. The seriousness in her tone sent alarm through him. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong, but I've made some decisions, and I wanted to talk to you about them before I finalize anything. Okay. Elena took a breath. I've sold my house. The museum, as you called it. I'm moving to something smaller. Actually small, not billionaire small. Lucas stared at her. Are you sure? That's a huge change. I'm sure that house was never a home. It was a monument to everything I thought mattered that actually doesn't. I want a real home. Something I can fill with life instead of expensive furniture. Where are you looking? That's the second thing I wanted to talk to you about. Elena twisted her rings nervously. I found a place about 2 blocks from here, 3-bedroom. Nothing fancy, but it has good light and a backyard, and it's close to Mia's school. Lucas's heart started pounding. 2 blocks from here. I'm not trying to crowd you. I know we're still figuring this out, but I want to be close. I want to be part of your daily life, not just the person who visits. Elena's eyes searched his. Is that too much? Too fast? No, it's perfect. Relief flooded Elena's face. Really? Really? I love that you'll be close, that we can see each other without it being a production. Lucas pulled her into a kiss. When do you move? 3 weeks. And there's one more thing. What? I'm starting a foundation, using the money from selling my stake in Voss Industries to fund programs for foster kids, educational support, mentorship, college scholarships, all the things I didn't have. Elena's voice grew passionate. I spent my whole life proving I was worth something by building an empire. Now I want to prove it by giving back. Lucas felt overwhelming pride. Elena, that's incredible. I want it to matter, to actually make a difference in people's lives. She paused. And I was hoping you might help me. Me? I don't know anything about running a foundation. You know about showing up for people who are alone, about seeing someone who's invisible and making them matter. That's the whole point. Elena took his hands. I need someone who understands what it feels like to be forgotten. Someone who won't let me lose sight of why this matters. That's you, Lucas. I have a job, a daughter. I'm not asking you to quit your job, just to be involved, part-time. Consult. Help me make sure we're actually helping people instead of just throwing money at problems. Elena's expression turned vulnerable. And honestly, I need you. I don't know how to do this without you. Lucas thought about his warehouse job, the one that was destroying his body and barely paying bills, about Margaret's words about having the courage to be vulnerable, about choosing to live instead of just survive. Okay, he said, I'll help, but I need something in return. Anything. Help me find a better job, not a handout, not something created for me. A real job where I can use my skills and not destroy my back. Help me build something sustainable so I can actually be a partner to you instead of always feeling like I'm drowning. Elena's eyes filled with tears. I can do that. I want to do that. Then we have a deal. They sealed it with a kiss that turned into more kisses, and for the first time, Lucas let himself believe that this might actually work, that they might actually build something real together. The next 3 weeks were chaos. Elena coordinated her move while finalizing the foundation setup. Lucas worked with a career counselor Elena connected him with, updating his resume and preparing for interviews. Mia bounced between excitement about Ms. Bajtuad's, Elena living close by, and anxiety about all the changes. But they made it work. Lucas landed a job as a site supervisor for a construction company, better pay and benefits than the warehouse, using skills he'd developed years ago. Elena's new house was cozy and warm, everything her old place wasn't. They painted Mia's future room together, all three of them ending up covered in paint and laughing. And slowly, without Lucas quite realizing when it happened, Elena became woven into the fabric of their daily lives. She picked Mia up from school when Lucas had late meetings. Lucas helped Elena unpack boxes and assemble furniture. They had family dinners most nights, alternating between houses. It felt natural. Right. Like a family. 2 months after meeting Sarah's parents, on a Sunday afternoon at the park while Mia played on the swings, Lucas asked the question he'd been building toward. Move in with us. Elena looked up from the sketch she was working on, having rediscovered her love of drawing. What? Move in, officially. Your lease is month to month. My apartment is too small, but we could find something bigger, something that's ours. Lucas felt his heart racing. I want to wake up with you every morning. I want Mia to have you there, not just visiting. I want us to be a real family. Lucas, are you sure? That's a huge step. I've never been more sure of anything. He took her hand. I love you. Mia loves you. We want you with us. Not close by. Not visiting. Actually with us. Elena set down her sketchbook, tears streaming down her face. I want that too, so much. But Lucas, I'm scared I'll mess it up. That I'll be a terrible parental figure to Mia, or drive you crazy with my control issues, or forget how to be a partner because I've been alone so long. You won't mess it up, and if you do, we'll work through it, together. Lucas pulled her close. We're both broken, Elena. We both have scars and fears and baggage, but maybe broken people who are willing to work at it make the strongest foundations. That's very optimistic for someone who claimed to have given up on optimism. You changed me, made me believe in possibilities again. Elena kissed him, soft and sweet and full of promise. Okay, let's do it. Let's find a place for all of us. They told Mia that evening over ice cream, her favorite venue for important conversations. Miss Elena is going to live with us, Lucas explained. We're going to find a bigger place where we all fit. Mia's eyes went wide. Like a real family? Like a real family, Elena confirmed. Mia threw herself at Elena, hugging her with 8-year-old fierceness. Can I call you Mom? Elena's breath caught. She looked at Lucas, who nodded, his own eyes wet. If you want to, Elena whispered, I'd be honored. I want to, because you're my mom now. Not the same as my first mom, but my mom anyway. Lucas watched his daughter and the woman he loved hold each other and felt something complete itself in his chest. Sarah would always be part of their story, but this was their story too. And it was beautiful. They found a house 3 weeks later. Not too big, not too fancy, but perfect for them. 3 bedrooms, a backyard for Mia, a room Elena could use as a studio. Close to Mia's school and both their jobs. Moving day was controlled chaos. Tom and Margaret came to help, accepting Elena fully now, treating her like the daughter-in-law she was becoming. Friends Lucas had slowly reconnected with showed up. Elena's assistant sent a team of movers, and for once, Lucas let her help without arguing about it. By evening, they were exhausted, surrounded by boxes, eating pizza on the floor of their new living room. This is perfect, Mia declared through a mouthful of pepperoni. It's a disaster, Lucas corrected. We have so much unpacking to do. But it's our disaster, Elena said, taking his hand. That makes it perfect. Later, after Mia was asleep in her new room, Lucas and Elena stood in the backyard looking at the stars. I need to ask you something, Lucas said quietly. Okay. It's too soon. We've only been together a few months. It's completely crazy and rushed and probably a terrible idea. Elena turned to face him, eyes wide. Lucas, what? He pulled a small box from his pocket, opened it to reveal a simple ring. Nothing extravagant, but beautiful in its understated elegance. Marry me, Lucas said. Not now, not tomorrow, whenever you're ready, but marry me. Be my partner. Be Mia's mom. Build this life with me for real. Elena stared at the ring, tears streaming down her face. Lucas, that's insane. We barely know each other. We're still figuring out how to live together. This is too fast. I know. We could crash and burn. We could realize we made a mistake. We could, or we could build something amazing. Elena laughed through her tears. You're supposed to talk me into it, not agree with all my objections. I'm not trying to talk you into anything. I'm just asking. If the answer is not now, that's okay. If it's not ever, I'll survive. But I needed you to know that I'm all in, completely. I want forever with you. Elena looked at the ring, then at Lucas, then back at the ring. Ask me again in 6 months, she finally said. If we haven't killed each other by then, if we still make sense, if this still feels right, ask me again and I'll say yes. Lucas grinned. That's very specific. I'm a specific person. It's one of my many flaws. I love your flaws. Good, because there are a lot of them. Elena kissed him softly. But Lucas, I'm already sure. I just want to give us time to be sure, to build something solid before we make it permanent. Fair enough? They stood in their new backyard holding each other under the stars, and Lucas felt peace settle over him for the first time in years. Not the absence of pain, but the presence of something stronger than pain. Hope, love, family. The next 6 months were an adventure in learning to live together. Elena had to learn that not everything needed to be controlled or optimized. Lucas had to learn to let Elena help without seeing it as weakness. Mia had to adjust to having 2 parents again, testing boundaries and pushing limits. They fought sometimes. About money, about discipline, about whose turn it was to do dishes. Normal couple fights that felt revolutionary because Lucas had forgotten what normal looked like. But they worked through it, every time. Elena started therapy to address her control issues and fear of abandonment. Lucas joined her for couples sessions, working through his grief and fear of loss. They learned to communicate, to be honest even when it hurt, to choose each other even when it was hard. The foundation launched. Lucas helped hire staff, review programs, visit kids who were where Elena had once been. It was hard work, but meaningful in ways his warehouse job had never been. Mia thrived. With 2 parents who adored her, with stability and love and a family that felt whole, she blossomed. Her drawings improved. Her confidence grew. She talked about her first mom with love and her new mom with equal affection, understanding that she could have both. 6 months to the day after his first proposal, Lucas asked again. This time, they were at the hospital where they'd met. Lucas had arranged with the staff to visit room 314, now occupied by someone else but still meaningful. This is where it started, Lucas said, standing in that familiar room, where I walked through the wrong door and found you, where everything changed. Elena looked around the room, emotion clear on her face. I was so alone, so lost, and you saw me anyway. I saw someone who mattered, someone worth showing up for. Lucas took her hand. I still see that person, every day, but now she's not alone. Now she's loved. Now she's home. He knelt, right there in that hospital room. Elena Voss, will you marry me? Elena pulled him to his feet, laughing and crying. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. They kissed in that hospital room while nurses peeked in and smiled, while the past and present merged into something beautiful. The wedding was small, family and close friends only. They held it in their backyard, the space they'd claimed as their own. Margaret cried. Tom made a speech about second chances. Mia served as flower girl and beamed with pride. Elena wore a simple dress. Lucas wore a suit he actually owned now, purchased for foundation events. They wrote their own vows. I promise to show up, Lucas said. Even when it's hard, even when I'm scared, even when every instinct tells me to protect myself. I promise to choose you every day. I promise to let you in, Elena said. To be honest, even when it hurts, to build something real instead of something perfect. I promise to love your daughter as my own. I promise to be worthy of the gift you've given me, a family. They exchanged rings, kissed as husband and wife, began a new chapter. 2 years later, Lucas stood in the kitchen of their home, watching Elena help Mia with a science project. Their daughter, because she was theirs now, fully and completely, was explaining her experiment with the seriousness of a 10-year-old who took school very seriously. The foundation was thriving. They'd helped hundreds of foster kids, provided scholarships, created mentorship programs. Elena had found her purpose, and it showed in everything she did. Lucas's construction company had promoted him to project manager. He came home tired but satisfied, doing work that mattered with people who respected him. Their house was filled with life. Mia's drawings covered the refrigerator. Elena's art supplies had taken over half the dining room. Lucas's tools lived in the garage. It was messy and imperfect and absolutely beautiful. "Daddy," Mia called, "come see what we made." Lucas joined them at the table, wrapping his arms around his wife and daughter. "It's a volcano," Mia explained. "We're going to make it explode tomorrow for my presentation." "That's amazing, sweetheart." Elena caught his eye over Mia's head, smiling. In that moment, Lucas saw their entire journey. The hospital room, the lonely visits, the terrifying vulnerability of letting someone in, the choice to build something real. It had started with a wrong door, with a stranger in a hospital bed who looked as lonely as Lucas felt, with the simple decision to give a damn about someone who needed it. And it had led to this, to a family, to love, to a life that mattered. Lucas had spent 3 years learning to survive. It had taken Elena to teach him how to live. "What are you thinking about?" Elena asked later, after Mia was in bed and they were curled up on the couch. "About wrong doors," Lucas said. "About how the best things in life come from the mistakes we make." "Was I a mistake?" "The best one I ever made." Elena laughed. "That's terrible and romantic in equal measure." "It's the truth. I walked into the wrong room and found everything I didn't know I needed. I needed you too, desperately. I just didn't know it until you showed up with those daisies." They sat in comfortable silence, holding each other. "Lucas?" Elena said quietly. "Yeah?" "Thank you for not giving up on me, for seeing past the Ice Queen to the person underneath, for making me believe I deserved good things. Thank you for not giving up on yourself, for having the courage to walk away from everything and start over, for choosing this life with us. I'd choose it again, every single time." Lucas kissed his wife, grateful beyond measure for the wrong door that had led him here, for the loneliness that had taught him to recognize it in others, for the courage to care when caring felt impossible. He'd survived loss. He'd survived grief. He'd survived years of careful isolation. But survival wasn't living. This was living. This messy, imperfect, beautiful life they'd built together. This family they'd created from 2 broken people who'd been brave enough to try. And it had all started with a wrong door, a forgotten room, and a single act of kindness that had refused to stay small. Outside, the city lights glittered in the distance. Inside, their home was warm with life and love and laughter. And Lucas Hale, the man who'd thought his story ended with loss, discovered that it had only been beginning. Sometimes the wrong door leads you exactly where you need to be.